Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Well, Paramount is getting their business in order, and they're trying to get their franchises to stay valuable. In part of doing that, you've got to get rid of some of the garbage you've been doing over the last couple of years, and they're well aware of it. From Cosmic Book News, Star Trek Discovery officially erased from canon. What is canon? The canon of a work of fiction is the body of works taking place in a particular fictional world that are widely considered to be the official or authoritative works, especially those created by the original author or developer of the world. Canon is contrasted with or used as the basis for works of fan fiction and other derivative works. There's nothing more important than fans. When you have a story, when you have characters, and fans are interested in it, that's fantastic. That's really what you want to have. Some fans are so passionate that they create their own versions that are not official versions, that are not considered canon, authoritative work versions of a franchise. Star Trek has a lot of that. There are a lot of Star Trek fans. My brother was over just a couple of days ago. We were watching, he loves watching like Star Wars fan fiction things. And we were looking at some of it, and it's okay, but it's not the real thing. But it's impressive when you have any franchise and people are willing to make their own creative works. That's what this Paramount series is now considered to be, fan fiction, not part of the original franchise. Fan fiction, also known as fanfic, is fiction written in an amateur capacity by fans as a form of fan labor, unauthorized by, but based on an existing work of fiction. The author uses copyrighted characters, settings, or other intellectual properties from the original creators as a basis for their writing and can retain the original characters and settings and their own or both. This isn't to say that Paramount's going to give up the copyrights or the ownership of this Star Trek Discovery series. It's just to say they're not going to be taking it nearly as seriously as it looks like they were going to. This is the future of Star Wars. This is the future of the woke Marvel shows. They're going to go back to the original canon, the original ideas, because that's the only thing that maintains the franchise. When you change what a franchise means, it's not a franchise anymore. It's something else completely. You're better off just creating something new. But they don't want to do that because they're trying to get rid of the old classic franchises. Well, instead, they're getting rid of the new, ridiculous takes on old classic franchises. And just so we know I'm not out of line here, calling this Star Trek Discovery show a woke version of a Star Trek show. From BuzzFeed.News. Going back to 2017, can Discovery make Star Trek the most woke show on TV again? People of color and women aren't going to have to squint to try to find someone who they can really connect with, according to co-executive producer of the show, Ted Sullivan, who told this to BuzzFeed News. Star Trek has had black captains before. Star Trek has had female captains before, going back decades. There's no issue with Star Trek introducing characters that are not white male characters. They've done that before. They've given them important positions. In the case of this show, they took things too far, and they picked this woman as a captain who has no physical presence. That's the first thing I noticed when I looked at this show. I look at this person, I'm like, that person standing there is supposed to be the captain of a spaceship? I never thought that once when it came to the captain of Star Trek Voyager. And that goes back decades now. You have to cast these roles and put these characters in positions where the actors or actresses can portray an appropriate level of energy and an appropriate level of presence for whatever character or role they're playing. From Cosmic Book News, Star Trek Discovery officially erased from canon. Fans can kiss Star Trek Discovery goodbye, as not only the series has been canceled, but it's learned that the show has officially been erased from canon. Paramount has used the final episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to make things right, which sees it confirmed that Star Trek Discovery takes place in an alternative universe separate from the main Star Trek timeline and universe. The news broke on this from the website Giant Freaking Robot, and that site goes over the details from the last episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, as that series too has been canceled. Star Trek Discovery used different Klingons for some reason. The first couple of seasons of Discovery took place in the past, but for whatever reason, the series drastically changed the look of the Klingons. Giant Freaking Robot says that following fan backlash, Paramount quickly realized they screwed things up and they came up with the idea to send Discovery into the far future for its 2 final seasons where it could no longer do any damage. In the last episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, what happens is that a group of Klingons encounters a rift that completely transforms matter into alternate reality versions of themselves from the multiverse. Multiverse is multiple universes, maybe even the same people, just different versions of them. It's a science fiction thing. Well, those Klingons get turned into the Star Trek Discovery Klingons. So those are possibilities from the multiverse. Cosmic Book News got a lot of feedback on this, and here's what they're laying down. Star Trek Lower Decks is canon. The episode clearly states the prime timeline Klingons get remapped into possibilities from the multiverse. They get remapped into the Discovery Klingons. So the Discovery Klingons are from the multiverse. Ergo, Discovery is from the multiverse. There's zero confusion. This is a way for them to repair story continuity. And continuity is important because you want to have things, if they happen in story, you want to have that actually mean something. It means nothing if your characters die and then a couple of episodes later they're back alive like nothing happened. As fans in the comments of the video note, it also isn't the first time Paramount has used Lower Decks to repair continuity, as the show fixed the 50-plus year continuity of Blue Orions. Quote, Discovery and all of the Kurtzman-verse itself is obviously a different reality. There is no way that nonsense takes place in the Prime Trek universe, adds another fan. As pointed out by Giant Freaking Robot, Lower Decks is 100% Star Trek canon and exists in the Prime timeline. Worth a mention is that Strange New Worlds also uses the regular look of the Klingons, so that show remains canon. So what's next for Star Trek? With Discovery and Lower Decks canceled, and Picard finished, Paramount's plans include the release of the Star Trek Section 31 streaming film starring Michelle Yeoh exclusively on Paramount+. As Section 31 is a spin-off from Discovery, and Yeoh's character is from an alternate universe, it seems likely the Section 31 film also is not canon. The Starfleet Academy series is also in development. Paramount recently announced the show will be getting 2 seasons, which means they're excited about it. If they're going to announce in advance, they're going to give it at least 2 seasons. That's a larger commitment of money. Starfleet Academy doesn't have a release date as of yet, but is thought to be premiering in 2025 or 2026. Produced by CBS Studios, Star Trek Starfleet Academy will follow the adventures of a new class of Starfleet cadets as they come of age in one of the most legendary places in the galaxy. The series will also introduce viewers to this young group of cadets as they come together to pursue a common dream of hope and optimism. Under the watchful and demanding eyes of their instructors, they will discover what it takes to become Starfleet officers as they navigate blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, first loves, and a new enemy that threatens both the Academy and the Federation itself. That sounds like a pretty decent series if they do it right. And like anything else, it's always if they do it right. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is also returning with Season 3 in 2025 and has been renewed for Season 4. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is based on the years Captain Christopher Pike manned the helm of the USS Enterprise. The series follows Captain Pike, Science Officer Spock, Number 1, and the crew of the USS Enterprise in the years before Captain Kirk boarded the starship as they explore new worlds around the galaxy. On the movie side of things, there was talk earlier in the year that Simon Kinberg would be developing a Star Trek prequel film. However, we recently saw the news that Kinberg is developing a new Star Wars trilogy at Lucasfilm and Disney. It's also been said that Andor's Toby Haynes is supposed to direct Star Trek IV, which would see the Abrams cast return, including Chris Pine. And for the Star Wars franchise, from ThatParkPlace.com, Disney Lucasfilm spent over $500 million on Andor budget. Where is this money going? When the budgets are extraordinary at Disney, it does make me wonder exactly what they're doing. Disney, for a long time, has had an agenda to pass out work and pass out money to people for diversity purposes. So are they overpaying their producers? Are they overpaying consultants? Are they just completely sloppy? The Marvel studio developed some TV shows and films that were extremely expensive. And in making the demands on the Marvel division and on the Lucasfilm division to add these TV shows, It's not like those divisions were originally set up to do low budget or reasonable budget TV shows. They were pretty much set up to do film. So when the corporate parent Disney said to these divisions, hey, make these shows, it's not like they got really strict with them about the budgets. Now they have to get a little bit more strict because Disney is obviously spending way too much on these shows. Paramount is cutting back. They don't have the kind of resources that Disney does. And Paramount's also going through a merger. So Paramount in particular is going to check twice, 3 times, like what helps their franchises and what gets them viewers on their streaming services and what does not. At least Disney canceled that Acolyte series, which was a ridiculous Star Wars show that not nearly enough people liked to justify the expense they were putting out there and the damage to the overall brand for trying to push an agenda. Disney's reported budget for the first 2 seasons of Andor ballooned to over $500 million amid diminishing returns. In an era where streaming platforms are vying for viewer attention with ever-expanding libraries, Disney's Star Wars series Andor stands out, not for storytelling, for its astronomical budget. With costs soaring to a staggering $645 million, Andor exemplifies what many critics are calling ridiculous bloat for a streaming show whose viewership metrics don't justify such expenditures. Disney disclosed that Andor's second season alone cost a record-breaking $290 million, marking the highest ever annual spending on a Star Wars production. To put this into perspective, the figure eclipses the $280 million spent on Star Wars The Last Jedi over an almost 11-month period and significantly surpasses the $243 million allocated to The Force Awakens during its production cycle. The second season's budget is expected to climb even higher. Filming, which commenced in November 2022, faced interruptions due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, prolonging the shoot and inflating costs further. Principal photography wrapped in February, but post-production, a year-long process laden with expensive visual effects, continues to drain resources. And it's not like Andor has impressive viewership numbers. They do not. Its finale only got 674 million minutes watched on Disney+. Those figures pale in comparison when scrutinized against its budget. Though it's not a new problem for Disney Lucasfilm. The Acolyte, another Star Wars spinoff, had a budget exceeding $230 million according to UK tax filings. Despite this hefty investment, The Acolyte struggled with viewership, garnering over 50% fewer minutes watched than Andor. This directly led to the cancellation of its second season. And as they state on thatparkplace.com, the stark contrast between the cost of these shows and the viewership they're getting on these shows raises critical questions about Disney's return on investment in these expensive productions. The high costs of shows like Andor and The Acolyte are hard to justify, especially when both series were unable to capture and maintain a sizable audience. The disparity suggests that Disney is prioritizing high production values over sustainable viewership growth. Well, the stories would have to be good to get sustainable viewership growth. Production values are very important because you don't want people to be taken out of the fantasy worlds that you create, that you tell your stories in. But the characters have to be compelling. They have to be interesting. And if you're doing something based on a spin-off franchise, it has to honor what people expect when they tune into Star Wars. When it comes to the business model of a large public entertainment company, it's difficult to understand unless you're in that field where you're dealing with large expenses and massive accounting effects. For example, one unusual aspect of all of this is the more that Disney spends on these productions in the United Kingdom, the more money they get back in cash rebates from the United Kingdom. This distributes their costs and their revenues in a strange way. It doesn't mean they don't need people watching their shows. They absolutely do need to maintain an audience for their entire business model to work out. But it is a little bit difficult to work out every detail of if they spend this money on a show and they get this cash rebate from the UK, and then they say that this show has a natural life to it of 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, or maybe some extended amount of time because it's based on a larger franchise, who knows? But what we do know is that fans of a specific franchise or a show will watch it if it's not good, but they won't keep watching it if it's not good. No matter what the accounting is, no matter what the tax rebates are, you're not going to be able to create value in a franchise, and you will lose value in a franchise if you don't give fans what they want, they expect, and they deserve. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.